Hi, Steve here. Do you see what's happening in this country? I mean, do you really see what's happening in this country? The globalists and the Luciferians, through the United Nations, through the WHO, through the deep state corporate media, and through all of those so-called leaders that carry out their division and strife and lies. This one world government, New World Order, is being fast-tracked in your face.
So what happens? People come in like this 37-year-old, and what was he complaining of, or what was going on?
Respiratory distress. He didn't have COVID either. He did not have COVID.
And how do we know that?
I took care of him. I have the same type of results from his chart as I do my other patient.
It was like the day before intubation, he was fine on the rebreather.
And then they intubated, and then he got a pneumo, and then they put in a PEP tube, and then it's been shipped.
And now he's 37 years old and dead.
That's what I'm seeing, like all these negative tests, and they're putting them on these vents. Hopeful that they'll get it. They're being put on these COVID floor. Is murder.
Erin Marie Olszewski, a military nurse working at the epicenter of the epicenter of the epicenter, which is supposed to be New York, Elmhurst Hospital, Queens, where we are told the most people are dying of COVID. She's a hero, okay? She went undercover in the hospital with video camera, with audio, talking to nurses, talking to doctors, and she was interviewed at length, over an hour and 10 minutes. There she is on your screen. This is a major, gigantic smoking gun on what is happening.
I'm pulling up like their laboratory results. So if you look here, you'll see COVID-19 bioreference lab. Here are the test results. As you can see, 5/1/2020 at 17:16, not detected. They test for a second time, 5/4/2020 at 17:59, not detected. So both of those are negative. Scroll up to the top. This is my patient. They are on a vent and they are being called COVID-19 confirmed. Droplet in contact and eye protection.
Erin Marie Olszewski. Video camera in the hospital, undercover, for an extended period of time, not just once. Audio in the hospital. As she said, put on ventilators. This is very serious treatment. What's happening at this hospital?
Reality.
I compare this hospital to a third world country. I've been in a third world country hospital in Iraq. The Iraq hospital is better than this one, and that says a lot. I've been there. I've been in both hospitals. There are good nurses that work there too. Like, I have made good friends with a lot of the nurses that do work there. There's good people, but they're outnumbered.
So what happens? People come in like this 37-year-old, and what was he complaining of, or what was going on?
Respiratory distress. He didn't have COVID either. He did not have COVID.
And how do we know that?
I took care of him. I have the same type of results from his chart as I do my other patient.
It was like the day before intubation, he was fine on the rebreather.
And then they intubated, and then he got a pneumo, and then they put in a PEP tube, and then it's been shipped.
And now he's 37 years old and dead.
Because that's what I'm seeing, like all these negative tests, and they're putting them on these vents. Hopeful that they'll get it. They're being put on these COVID floor. Is murder. It straight up is. It is setting these people up for failure based on.
Okay, it's murder. It's murder. What does she decide to do? Erin Marie Olszewski. She decides to expose everything that's going on and laying it out to the public and to any public officials that want to know what exactly is happening.
Because they're all scared. Everybody's scared. And everybody's scared to stick up for themselves. And I've called a lot of doctors unethical to their face. And they deserve it.
calling doctors unethical to their face, and they deserve it. She deserves every amount of support we can give her because she's put herself at great risk in many ways.
And this is in the United States, and this hospital is treating low income, mostly, people. And it almost makes me feel like they think these people are disposable. And they're not. They're people. You know, people are not disposable. You know, especially the ones that are struggling day in and day out, the hard workers, you know, like trying to reach that American dream, and they're not given a chance because they're brought to this place where nobody cares.
And is there an understood financial incentive to diagnose COVID?
Yeah, of course. So in the hospital that I'm in right now, it's all COVID at this point.
It's all COVID. Financial incentive to diagnose people with COVID. Their own tests are negative. They're diagnosed with COVID. And again, what does that mean? It isn't just a game they're playing to get money. It is that because the insurance payouts, as I've described before, are considerably higher when you have a patient come into the hospital and is diagnosed as COVID. We understand that. We're talking about something a lot more serious than that for the patient, which is they're put on a train from the point of the diagnosis in this hospital onto ventilators. Highly risky procedure. It's not just, put them on a vent. No. The people that are working these things have to know exactly what they're doing, have to be doing it for exactly the right reason with the individual patient, if absolutely necessary. This is not a one-size-fits-all. It's much worse than just the ventilator. There's more involved on this train to death and nowhere than just being put on a ventilator, which itself is dangerous enough. Using the wrong protocol, too much pressure on the lungs, collapsing the lungs, destroying the patient's life, etc. Pneumonia that leads to death.
I guess the word traveled after this.
You mentioned earlier that this is a common occurrence where people come in able to speak and they just have low oxygen levels and they're put on a vent. So what's going on there?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea how they're assuming everybody is just the same. There's no individuality anymore. These residents, I think a lot of them are just stone cold. You know, there's no emotion and they don't view people as people anymore. And it's really sad. Like I came a little bit later, you know, after the big rush, but there was still a lot of people coming in and a lot of us were just in shock. Within the first couple days, you could see exactly what was going on.
My bigger problem with this whole scenario is when they intubate people who don't need it.
Yeah.
And it looks very clear to me that they're just pushing it.
You almost feel like you are literally living in the Twilight Zone.
Living in the Twilight Zone, intubating people that don't need it, meaning putting them on ventilators when they absolutely don't need it. It's murder. A trusted emergency room doctor, not at this hospital, another hospital, said, one of the things that these doctors now don't realize is that many elderly people live with chronically low levels of oxygen. Is it optimal? No. Do they survive? Yes. It's just what is happening to them as they get older, as they get diagnosed, of course, with multiple conditions and are treated with toxic drugs, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, they survive. But they come to a hospital like this, which, as Erin says, the residents there, they're not working like true professionals that are really competent and understand from experience what's going on.
What killed him? Did the vent kill him?
Yeah. Oh, yes. They're so sedated. He had probably 8 or 9 drips. It's all sedation. It's all sedation and paralytics. So you are asleep. It is essentially like you're under, you're in surgery, when they put you under like that for a good month straight. There's no way you can recover from something like that. You're brain dead if you do.
What she's talking about there is not just the fake COVID diagnosis leading on the train to the ventilator. And she's not just talking about the patient being given a light muscle relaxer while on the ventilator.
What killed him? Did the vent kill him?
Yeah. Oh, yes. They're so sedated. He had probably 8 or 9 drips. It's all sedation. It's all sedation and paralytics. So you are asleep. It is essentially like you're under, you're in surgery, when they put you under like that for a good month straight. There's no way you can recover from something like that. You're brain dead if you do.
Massive sedation. The person never wakes up under a ventilator, sedated, isolated, no friends, no family permitted, dies. The endless amounts of economic destruction, the health destruction.
They won't use like other treatments that are successful around the world. And I had a conversation with a doctor about this.
Are you guys doing like different sorts of like treatments? Because I know like
nothing works.
They have, yeah, but I mean, there's, they're coming out with different things that are in the testing phase.
It's the same thing. They come with a platinum that kill more people than actually save. So that's one.
And he said that they don't work anyway. And I told him, well, obviously what you guys have going on here isn't working. So what's the harm in trying?
I don't expect any of these people to survive. 90% of them would die.
I mean, it's just maintaining. So I figured if it's assumed they're going to die anyway,
just try.
Why not throw a few?
Well, it's, I don't know. That's always an issue in medicine, whether you should just throw things, whether they're dying anyway or not.
But if you could find a cure.
There's no cure, so there's no antiviral therapy. The only way to do it is cure, but there's no
treatment. I should say. Rephrase. Treatment.
You could treat it, but you have to have some scientific basis for whether these things are working or not. And just throwing everything at them, you could make them worse. So
worse than death.
Huh?
Worse than death.
Well, we said 90%, maybe that 10%, maybe they're true. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, if there's no basis for it working, I mean, you wouldn't just try things just because. I mean,
I would.
I might.
If it could save my life. Yeah.
Erin Marie Olszewski, military nurse in the military, in civilian life, goes to the epicenter of the epicenter, and eventually, because she's horrified at what she's seeing, decides to do something that very few people would do while still working there. A camera in her glasses, undercover, day after day, audio, video, gathering information, and then having that interview and just laying it out there completely as to what's happening, the whole story. Not many people would do that.
The COVID-19 farce and scam is being shoved down our throats day after day after day. Yahoo News, which is the most pathetic news source you could possibly look at, sends me a text every day about coronavirus. And that's all they send. They never have a different news story on there, but it's always coronavirus, in my face on my phone. Corporate mainstream media puts out false numbers and lies to us every day about the cases and deaths of coronavirus. They've got their minions and their paid servants working overtime to create more fear and more division. All you have to do is look at some of the signs people are holding up that are professionally printed. Where did the money come from to purchase thousands of signs? I don't think Americans realize the enemy is already marching on our land. They're not on their way. They're already here. I feel sorry for the people in this country that can't see the truth. They're still out there wearing their face masks in the stores, on the streets, and even at the beach. You can't be more scammed and believe the lies than that. It's getting horrible, and things really haven't changed that much since Donald Trump became the president. But I can guarantee you, that when he's not there anymore, the dam will break loose, and this country will be flooded with a lawlessness level you can't imagine. This COVID-19 farce and hoax is going to continue, and those that are going to continue to buy into it will continue to give up their lives on the altar of a complete lie in the name of protecting others from death, even though the facts don't prove that at all. It was and is a globalist plot to bring the world economy to its knees and allow these globalist Luciferians to buy up things for pennies on the dollar as they continue to watch people die. No, they're not dying from a virus. They're dying because they've willingly complied in giving up their livelihood, their business, their families, and their future to a complete lie. The only thing this proves to me is the power corporate media has over a country devoid of logic and common sense anymore. There are more people dying from the effects of 5G technology, and yet that's completely hidden from the public on purpose. This headline on the Jerusalem Post says the U.S. is refighting its Civil War narrative. No, the truth is they're rewriting the Civil War narrative in a way that causes more division. History is not supposed to be rewritten. History is what already happened, whether it was good or bad. Even the Bible has the good and the bad included in it. The people that believe removing all the statues and changing all the history books and rewriting history is going to make for peace and a happier world are just as deceived as those who think doing Satan's bidding will work out for them. Even the U.S. Navy is going to ban Confederate flags in an effort to capitulate to the domestic terrorists trying to rewrite history. Look at some of these headlines. Nation's top military officer apologized for a role in a Trump photo op. I should not have been there, he said. Internal polling instills fear in advisors. Yeah, they know Trump is probably going to lose now with all the damage they've been able to incur. Some Republican senators disappear Trump for 2020 ads. Everything we see happening right now in this country is a giant psyop. It's a psychological operation being waged against the people of America and this world. For the completely dumbed down and ignorant people watching this video asking the question, why would they do that to us? Why would our government lie to us? I feel sorry for you. Because they want to control you. That's why. That's the answer. The same way they control the people of China. They will tell you, just like these mayors and governors who told you when you can leave your house and what you can wear and what you have to wear and when you can open your business and when you can't open your business. It's all about control. It's all about control, people. They are preparing you to take a knee before the Antichrist, before the beast and the false prophet. That's what this is all about. Don't think it isn't. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said on Thursday the U.S. should not shut down the economy again if there is another wave of the coronavirus outbreak. Mnuchin said, Americans have learned that if you shut down the economy, you're going to create more damage. Well, no kidding. He's exactly right, and the economy should have never been shut down. But Trump had the deep state pushing in on him from all sides to do it because they made it appear as if it was the greatest contagion to ever hit the earth, and it was far from that.
You have to go through your medical people, get the approval, but I've seen things that I sort of like. So what do I know? I'm not a doctor. But I have common sense.
There is things that look really good in cell culture against the virus that may look good in small animals and then don't have an impact.
Well, I was surprised. I was surprised by his answer, actually, because it's just, to me, it's not an acceptable answer. Look, he wants to play all sides of the equation.
Like I said before, it's nothing but a giant psyop to bring about a one-world government controlled by these globalist elites and Luciferians.
Millions of Americans remain subjected to unprecedented restrictions on their personal lives, their daily lives, their families' lives. The coronavirus lockdowns continue in many places. You may not know that because it gets no publicity, but it's true. And if you're living under it, you definitely know. As a result of this, tens of millions of people are now unemployed. A huge number of them have no prospects of working again. Many thousands of small businesses are closed and will never reopen. More Americans have become dependent on drugs and alcohol, seen their marriages dissolve, become clinically depressed. Some of them delayed their weddings. Others were banned by the government from burying their loved ones in funerals. Some Americans will die of cancer because they couldn't get cancer screenings. Some unknown number have taken their own lives in despair. Others have flooded the streets to riot because bottled up rage and frustration take many forms. The cost of shutting down the United States and denying our citizens desperately needed contact with one another is hard to calculate, but the cost has been staggering. The people responsible for doing all of this say they have no regrets about it. We faced a global calamity, they say. COVID-19 was the worst pandemic since the Spanish flu. That flu killed 50 million people. We had no choice. We did the right thing. That's what they're telling us. Is it true? The answer to that question matters, not just because the truth always matters, but because the credibility of our leaders is at stake here. This is the biggest decision they have made in our lifetimes. They were able to make it. They rule because we let them. Their power comes from us. So the question now and always is, are they worthy of that power? That's not a conversation they want to have. And right now they don't have to have that conversation because right now all of us are distracted and mesmerized by the woke revolution underway outside. But we do think it's worth, for a minute, taking a pause to assess whether or not they were in fact lying to us about the coronavirus and our response to it. And the short answer is this: yes, they were definitely lying. As a matter of public health, we can say conclusively the lockdowns were not necessary. In fact, we can prove that. And here's the most powerful evidence. States that never locked down at all, states where people were allowed to live like Americans and not cower indoors alone, in the end turned out no worse than states that had mandatory quarantines, the state you probably live in. The states that did lock down at first but were quick to reopen have not seen explosions of coronavirus cases. All of this is the opposite of what they said would happen, with great confidence. The media predicted mass death at places like Lake of the Ozarks and Ocean City, Maryland, places where the middle class dares to vacation. But those deaths never happened. In the end, the Wuhan coronavirus turned out to be a dangerous disease, but a manageable disease like so many others. Far more dangerous were the lockdowns themselves.
If we, the people who understand and see what's happening in this country, don't stand up in every way possible, in every area that we're able to, we can look for a swift defeat and destruction of our country, guaranteeing that our children and our grandchildren have no future. And for all the Christians that believe God's sovereignty means that we're supposed to just lay down and wait for the end and just allow the Antichrist to wipe us all out, you've never read the Bible all the way through. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything, to stand. You and I only have one shot in this world. First and foremost is your relationship with God Almighty. That's why I put a link in the description box below so you can take care of that if you need to. And then we need to stand up for righteousness and for the innocent in this world. The only other choice is death. Think about it.